I think
So,
Salmanji, you should not switch off your video. That
okay,
makes it more interactive and more interesting also. I think
okay,
we'll all put off our video and audio both.
J. So, I thought that before I go into the Moodle, since we all are required to, are you able to see this diagram of Creative Commons license?
Yes.
Yes, we can
Okay,
see it.
J. Okay, thank you. Uh, we all are involved in course development, and now since everything is going online, we need to create our e-resources also. And it puts us a very serious challenge that normally what we do as you know inadvertently, not knowing, doing it deliberately. Suppose if I want to create a presentation on photosynthesis, and I think that for this I need a photograph of leaf, of plant, of sun rays, something. I will go to Google, I will search a photo. Oh, this photo is very good, and I will download it. And similarly, I try to find out some text or some video, any kind of e-content which is available on the net. And that may be a serious issue that we may be using the copyright protected material. And I think the famous case of Delhi University is also well known to all of us, where there was a strong fight between the publishers and the other parties. So I think to assist our faculty members, I thought that let me show you some of the websites from where we can easily have the content, which can be the images, which can be the sound, which can be videos, which can be e-content as a textual matter to use us in our, because they are the materials which have been released under Creative Commons license. Before that, there are these 6 kind of Creative Commons licenses. They have these 4 kind of characteristics to them. The attribution means that who owns that material. So this goes by the a fundamental way. Anything any person creates becomes the author automatically. So if I'm writing something, if I'm creating some product, if I'm creating a diagram, uh, I'm taking a photograph, something like that, so that becomes my copyright. Now, after that, the next stage comes that whether I want to release my copyright for others to use it or not. If not, it becomes copyright protected. If I release, to what extent I can release? If I give up completely, fully, that okay, it can go into, I can declare it as a public domain also, that anyone can use it, like Munshi Premchand ki kahaniyan, Ramayana, Mahabharat, these things in public domain, anybody can make a kind of use. That's why we see that there are so many variations of the products available. Product means content in that way. Then there are these 3 things. No derivative works. It means we cannot revise that work. We can use it as such. We cannot modify it. No derivative. Then non-commercial. We can use it, we can modify it, we can revise it, but we cannot make a commercial use of that product. And share alike means there are some organizations which try to protect their copyright and the nature of their work, along with allowing others to use their material. So these are the 6 types of Creative Commons licenses. The above 4 are treated as open educational resources. The below 4 are not treated as open educational resources. So this, and if I'm creating, suppose someone asks me that I want to release my content under a Creative Commons license, so whom I should be contacting? No one. We all, these are the licenses available. These were released by Creative Commons, the short of a non-profit organization in United States. So every individual is free to choose any license depending on their own flexibility in terms of ease they feel that the kind, to what extent they are they want to release their material for this. So if I create anything, I will just choose any license out of that, and paste it at a certain prominent place. For example, if I'm creating a PowerPoint presentation, I can have this logo on my first slide, which will make it, means just for the others, when they use it, they need to know that what is the license. And in absence of any particular license, it means that it is the standard copyright license in that case. So if we find any this kind of work in which there is no license, then we need to be careful, either asking the author if the author's details are there, and then seeking permission that we want to use your material. Can we use it in our work? Like that. So that way. So let me show some of the sites which allow us to use the materials under these conditions freely, that we can use in our course creation. The first one is
Dr. Sharma, see, I have a point at this point of time. I have to ask some point, some clarification. I think it will be better if you can ask the others. They should, means you can explain to others what is the NC and what is the SA, because you have given 6 components, and what happens when you can say about NC. NC is normally, it cannot be used for the commercial purpose. The
Yes.
moment you say it is essay, then others can use your work, copy it, and can use it for the commercial purpose.
yes.
Now we have to take a decision as a policy that whether we would like others to use our materials for commercial purpose. I think some kind of distinction, if you can explain them, because many of these people may not be liking that, or I may not, I personally, I may not like that my work should be used for the non-commercial purpose, commercial purpose by others. मतलब है कि somebody can copy my work and remix it and sell it in the market. I think some aspect of this may be clarified to the members, to the faculty, so that we can take a policy decision whether we would like to go as CC by NC or CC by SA. That aspect has to be explained to the members. This is what is more crucial at this juncture.
Okay. This is an important point, and I think it has 2 issues now here. One at the institutional level, and then secondly, when an individual person creating a text, and when they want to use the material of others and then using it in the classroom or releasing it for the public to use it. So here, if it is, say, for example, let me take the first one, CC BY. If we are releasing this material, then any other party can use our material in whatever way we are allowing them in terms, then they can distribute it further, they can revise it, they can make a commercial use of it, they can edit that, they can mix it with other work and create their own work. It is the most simple way. The second is CC BY SA. Wherever we have the share alike indicates that this license allows us to make a revision of that material, editing that material, making a commercial use of that material, but the license will remain the same. So in that case, we cannot make it. I take a material from some organization, say for example, Delhi University or NIOS, where it is a material is by with SA license. And after that, I think that, okay, let me make it at CC BY. I cannot do that. It has to be further released with the same license, the original work under which it was released. And then non-commercial, where we can use that material only for non-commercial purposes if the NC license is not there, if the this non-commercial license is there. So that non-commercial goes with the highest, the most difficult one, which becomes in a way closest to copyright protected material, in the sense that you can't make a commercial use of that, you can't revise that material, but you can use it, you can distribute it. Distribution means here, like if I have a music CD with me or a software CD with me, technically I cannot copy it to make a duplicate of that. It constitutes to piracy. And then I can't just give it to others, distributing it like that. So distribution in that way there. So maybe if the responsible group, we can take a decision. But for the teacher's purpose, we can think that institutionally, by protecting our IPR copyright things, which of these licenses one can feel better that they can use it. Let me show you some examples from where. This is Smithsonian Open Access, and they have very recently released millions of their images and other work as open access materials, and it has a huge database of work which is released by them and can be used. You can just go to any of their repository, and we can make a search in their database. From there we can find and select anything which we feel that it is good for our work and can take it. Most of them, they are for under open access licenses into it. So that database is not coming up. Another site is Pixabay. So here it is stunning free images and royalty free stock. So from here also, you can see that around 2 million high quality images are available on this, and it allows us to select for vector images. We may be knowing that the images are like raster images or vector images, and depending on that, for example, like BMP, the bitmap image, or JPG, or TIFF or PNG. For basically for internet purpose, it is always a good idea to use either JPG, TIFF or PNG format, because they retain the quality. Even if we zoom out them, if we enlarge them, the pixelation of that, it doesn't get distorted. Otherwise, for example, in GIF, which is basically an animated image, or a BMP, if we zoom them or enlarge them, the pixelation may get distorted. So those squares, they start coming up like that. So here, say for example, I want to search something on leaf. I'll click on it and it will show me various products. Whatever I think that it is good for me, I can just select that. And this is the image, and here is the license. It allows us that it is free for commercial use. Even we can make it that. And further it says that no attribution required. Ethically, it is a good idea that we give the attribution, we cite the source. But even this website, the people, those who upload their work on this website, they give that understanding that even if you want to use this image but don't want to cite, it's perfectly okay with them. So that is one there. Another is Unsplash. Unsplash works in the same way, and it's one of the very popular website even among business houses, because they use a lot of images from there. And if it's something similar, so we can say, like in my photosynthesis class, I want to use this image. I will click on that, and from here I can download it, and it shares that I can share it, but I can see further images into it. And it you can simply, there is no need to sign up. You just click on it and it will download that image, and it will show you that if we want to say thanks, how we can say. So it gives us the citation. So we just can copy this link, or it is better, means that both are the ways. Either we use the URL of the top and the of that image, or we can copy here by photo by Annie Spratt on Unsplash, and that is good enough to use in our images. Another is Flickr.com. Flickr is owned by Yahoo company now, and it has millions of images available on its database. And we can also use it, let's say, like searching for some image, and it allows us to search people something. We can check it. This is the general command, but from here we can choose what kind of license is we are looking for. And then here is another thing that it allows us to sort our images based on a particular color also. So for example, if I want to have the blue color dominant in my images for some special purpose, so it will give me that. And then if I want to have some sort of a pattern, then it can give me which I can use in my presentation as the background, something there on my work. So another website is Fodder. I'll distribute this list later on. So this Fodder images. These also, you can see that 335 million free stock images are available, and it has a its index like photos by category, and we can search the photos by idea also on what theme we are looking for the image. And then here, say for example, if I search for a particular work, and I can just go. The good thing about this website is that when we select any image, it shows us the steps that what kind of resolution we want for our picture. And as we know that if it is an online work, the smaller resolution is better. If it is a offline product, say like I want to make a banner, then the high resolution image will be better. And to check the license, what kind of license this work holds. So at present it is CC0, which is all rights released, and the modifications are allowed. Commercial use of this image is allowed. And then it tells us that if you want to attribute this photo, we can just copy and paste this tag from here into our work, and that will go into it there. We can also use Google as such for our work, and that holds for all kind of things into it. Suppose I want to search something for leaf, and it shows me everything which can be copyrighted or non-copyrighted products. So the better way is, because the search engine is very powerful and it allows us to make search based on we call it as Boolean search. Now Boolean search is using the operators and or not, like that. If it is and, say I want to say India and Corona, so the search will be in which both these words will be there. If I make my search as India or Corona, it will return me the results either of the two. And if I say India, not Corona, it will show me the search related to India, but it won't return the searches in which Corona is there. So that way we can either use the word as and or not, or we can make use of plus sign, which indicates that both are essential. Minus means excluding that we can use. And we can just put our words there. It allows us to search in various languages about the region. If we want something for Africa, something particular there at a particular time, here is the and it allows us to search for a particular format of the object also. If I want to search only the PPT, only the PDF, only a certain kind of image or some Excel sheet or some software piece, something like that, I can use that format. Otherwise we can use the usage right from where, if it is free to use, free for commercial use, free for modification, accordingly it will allow us to search our material based on the things which we allow us. Not only that, Google is in a way powerful enough nowadays to allow us to make even reverse imaging technique also, in which Suppose I have a photograph, I want to see the background, then reverse imaging, we can go there and we can check. But not only that, sometimes if we remember that I had seen some image somewhere and I want to use it in my work, in my presentation, but I don't remember where I saw it or where the means the URL of that image. So we can just tell the Google certain words about it and it can search. For example, like uh, I saw one presentation given by one expert once on examination system, that our examination system treats everyone equal. We give an examination system, frame 5 questions and ask all the students to reply to those 5 questions. So uh, that I remember that that there was a mention of examination. There was a tree. There were some animals into it, and let me see that if it can show me that. So this is this figure which I wanted to search. It was saying that for a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. Please climb that tree. So this is another way that we can search something if we remember that we had something, some object, some product somewhere, and we vaguely remember a few things about it, and then we can just see that what is the URL for there, and from there we can select. So these were related to the image part. For our work, we may be using, say, like sound also. If we have recorded our video, and for our video, when I want that in my video, I want certain background music to enhance its appeal. So for there, we can go to SoundCloud. And from here we can search their database, and then we can see classical music or whatever, and we can find the tracks whatever we like. We can check, allows us to share or about its further details, and then if we like it, we can download it and can use in our work from there. So the licenses of the site, they allow us to make a use of the various sounds. Similarly, we can use uh, free sound. So this also, free sound is a collaborative database of Creative Commons licensed sounds. You can browse them, download them, and share the sounds. We can find from here that what is available. We can, using the tag, if I want to search something for specific, and if there is anything, I can just play it, listen it, and I found it okay, then we can download that. And about the quality, the people sometimes they try to rate, and then we can see that how the others in the community they have found it, like based on the downloads or the comments about them, how the others they have reacted to that particular object there. Then there is another site called as Jamendo Music. So this also free streaming, free download, and this is a again they allow the community to select some music, and we can explore the various kind of genre which are available from there, classical, electronic, like that, and then use them accordingly what we think that is okay for us. So these are for finding the relevant music or sound for our work. In our work, we heavily depend on YouTube for videos. So YouTube is another source for videos, but any video on YouTube may not be, and particularly if it is the standard YouTube license, we cannot download that and use it in our work. Giving a URL is the safe work. For if any video is there which I like, I can either give the URL of it or embed it, but downloading and then using it, then it is prohibited. So what to do in that case? It is very easy. Suppose we are searching some video about a keyword like chromosome here. At present, if we see all these videos, they are at random. So they may be copyright protected, they may be non-copyright protected. But to search that, what video are allowed by to be used by others through the use, we can use this filter button, which appears after we make a search using a keyword. Then this appears. If we simply go to YouTube, you won't see this filter button there. And then on the basis of the time, on the basis of the type of the video you want to search, on the basis of duration and the features, here is the Creative Commons. You click on that, and then all these works which are coming up on the screen, they are copyright Creative Commons licensed works. For example, let us just see. This is the work, and in the description here, I can simply see, and here in the license, it is shown that it is Creative Commons attribution license. It means its reuse is allowed. I can make a reuse of it. Reuse means I can use it as such. The original license allows the use to under CC BY NC domain of Creative Commons community. So that way, depending on what is on offer by others, we can use these products. There is another resource which is used by many people. It is called as TeacherTube. So here is the TeacherTube. And you can see that it offers the video resources for science, mathematics, history, social studies, language, art, and education. And we can find here audio, video, and quite other subjects. And then say like making a thermometer, we can go there. And here is the product, and this shows us its metadata, for which class, who created it, and the kind of platform it allows us. There is another good resource which is created by MIT, that is called as MIT Blossoms Videos. This is basically for science subjects, biology, chemistry, physics, engineering, etc. But I like this website for one of their feature. Let me just at randomly collect anyone, say this biology. So here is the this video which will just going to appear. This is the instructor who has created this, and we can download the video. It is MP4, and this is the nice thing about it, that it allows us to download the transcript of that video. So the transcript becomes easy for us to use because sometimes and particularly as a part of our inclusive education, or for those assistive technology things, we may need it by giving them the extra resources for those specially challenged students there. So this is the site in which we can see that how, and these are available in various languages, and these are open source objects which can be used in various languages, basically for high school classes, but we can use depending on the purpose in which we have. These are the things. Now, where we can, text is a major component in our course material, and there are various resources available, which are as a part of an institution, say for example, as an university or some other individual organizations. They have created and allowed the material to be used there. Say one of them is very famous, Athabasca University Press. In fact, this Athabasca University Press is a quite a unique example in the sense that initially when they decided to offer their material as freely accessible under open access, then there was some means issues with the people. They were saying that our revenues will get affected, that if we distribute it, who will purchase our books? And on the contrary, the reverse happened. When they started offering their material under open access, the sale of their published material increased, simply due to the reason that when the people they accessed them, they found that if this material is of this good quality, their other materials will also be of high quality, and then the sale of their print material increased. And that's why they do it here. If you want to download the soft copy, you can download it, you can use it. And then under open access, like there is one book on teaching in the digital era by Tony Bates. It has been published in 65 languages. They just translated it into they downloaded it and published in their own language with that free license to use that. So there in that search, we can make a search of database, say like on education. And it shows various products which are available with them. And this is one book, Theory and Practice of Online Learning, which is very, very famous. And it has been downloaded many, many times. It has been awarded, and then we can use it. So download PDF and use it in there. Another one is Merlot site. So okay, I think I reached there, the other page. So you can see that the Merlot provides access to online learning and sport materials led by community researches, and they offer this is their collection. We can browse by discipline: arts, business, education, humanities, mathematics, science, technology, etc. And we can create also, if we want to upload, we can add material, we can create using their authoring tools, and it's a free community released by them. We can browse and see their the policies, that how these materials they are available to others for them to use it. Then we have OpenStax books, which is a open textbook project. These are freely available download. Can see that it says that these are the books which are openly licensed, 100% free, and they have been reviewed by the community out there. So if I want to check anything related to mathematics, social science, humanities, business essentials, we can go and check the work and then see the table of content. We can download this book as a free resource. And these are the contributors to this work. And here this work is as CC BY license. So I can just, suppose if this book has 10 chapters into it, I just want to take one chapter and I want to modify that little bit by adding. The modification here sometimes you can think of in terms of, say for example, use of currency. If it is a US product, they will mention it in dollars. So in Indian conditions, we cannot use the dollars in our reference. So we have to do the currency change, or say date format, or some other kind of measurement units which we follow, which differs from country to country, region to region. Somewhere we go with kilometers, somewhere we go with miles, and like that. So those kind of revisions, or just changing the text by having some portion from there and some adding something from there. So this OpenStax project by Rice University. One more is there, which is highly regarded, Open Textbook Project of Hong Kong. So this is the work. They also offer the textbooks, and all this is available, as Dr. Jana was saying. Their work is under CC BY SA license. So we can modify their work, we can make a commercial use of their work, but the further license which can go, again, we have to release that by under CC BY SA. We cannot make it a public domain material, or we cannot make it the other kind. We cannot change the license into it, but can see that these are for university level courses. We have certificate, diploma, the various categories are available. So a lot of reference material is available pertaining to arts, humanities, business. In that case, when we create a course, when we are teaching our students and we are looking for certain kind of material, it's always a good practice that first we may try to search open access materials or Creative Commons licensed materials, which we can easily use from there. So say like social science, we can go and check a resource. This is basic political, and it is under CC BY SA license. There we can have it online. We can download the PDF, and the PDF is available like that. So this way we can search any material which is available there. Okay, so these are some of the resources which I wanted to share with you, that how it can help our colleagues in making use of, and these are quite good quality materials which have been, when they commissioned, they try to find out good authors, and then review was done on the basis of the quality parameters. Then, and even the community, they rate that material when they read it. Say, for example, there are these stars. We can simply rate a product and then give our opinion about that. So we can assure about the quality of that work. So any questions about these things? Okay, now let me come to Moodle. I think due to some electricity issue in our campus, due to some voltage fluctuation and the restriction by the administration, Delhi government, the movement is restricted. So perhaps the repair work is getting affected. So at present, our access to our Moodle. I remember that yesterday or day before yesterday, it came up, but I think today again, it looks like that the electricity to the server is not there. So I will explain it using the Moodle Cloud version, that how we can make a course available using Moodle. But first, certain things basically about Moodle, that what is this platform and how does it assist a teacher in using this platform. So the first thing, Moodle is an acronym. It stands for Modular Object Oriented Dynamic Learning Environment. It means that we can create our course in a modular way on it, and then object oriented. The course here, it becomes those modules, they become object oriented. Now this object oriented is the term which has been taken from the computer science programming languages, where there is one kind of, like we have procedural languages. You must have heard about Pascal, COBOL, C++, those kind of languages. So there is this um, object-oriented languages in which everything is considered as an object. So my phone is an object, my specs object, this headphones object, my shirt is an object, everything is an object. And all the objects, they have certain properties. One of them, say for example, is inheritance. So say like, and it is evident in living world. Dead and living world means the non-living and living beings. So the children, they inherit features from their parents, and so on it gets passed on from parent to the offsprings and further goes on. So what makes it good here is that you create a module in one sense as an object, and then you can use it in other instances possible. A simple example, you can think of it as the print button on any software, or a button to make a text bold or italics, something like that. This is an object. You create it once, and then you can use it in various softwares at various other places, because its purpose is very simple. When we execute that command, it tells the machine that it has to do that specific action that way. So the content here, if we create it, we can reuse it in other instances. It makes it. And then dynamic learning environment. We can create our course which are quite dynamic in nature, not static in nature, where we can have the interaction, the interactivities, the student engagement inbuilt into these courses, so that it doesn't become a sort of a passive learning. To promote active learning, to promote student engagement, it is learned. Because the Moodle has its, we call it as the Moodle philosophy. It believes in constructivism. Constructivism means that we learn by creating something. So through our senses, the sense of see, hearing, seeing, touch, smell, like that. And we interact with the external world, and then we learn things. That is the constructivism. On the basis of my experiences, I construct something, I learn something. Then the second part of it as constructionism. Constructionism means that we try to make others learn by constructing something as a way of collaborative learning. And it leads us to social constructivism, in which we create certain communities, communities of learners, communities of practitioners, and then they work together and promote learning from there. So this is a basic philosophy behind this Moodle platform. It was created in the year 2002, and currently the Moodle 3.8 is the latest version. 3.9 is coming in June very soon. And the new versions, they are now so powerful that as per the UGC recommendation, the learning outcomes based curriculum framework, where now we have the graduate attributes and the learning outcomes. The course has to be transacted in that way on the basis of that. And then how the teachers, they can base their assessment based on those competencies. It's very easy to use this platform to have the assessment done on the basis of those competencies which we can define in our course. So this is a bit background. It is one of the the learning management systems, like Google Classroom is a learning management system, Sakai is a learning management system, Blackboard is a learning management system. All these are learning management systems where the teacher uploads certain content on it and transacts it in by interacting with means the teacher to the content to the student to the teacher. That kind of interaction happens. They are of two categories, proprietary and open source. Moodle is open source. The Blackboard example is a proprietary software that way. And the Moodle is in a way in this field. Outside US, it is the on the top, the most popular learning management system, which is very, very powerful and very, very highly secure and safe. Even all our colleagues, I remember that our IQAC team and the NAC people, they wanted to see So means unless we grant access to somebody to our course, even I cannot go to the course of my colleague, say Dr. Mansi or any other person. That way it is very secure and safe about its security features are very high. This is a bit background. Now let us see that how do we create a course or how do we manage our course. Simply first, like the features are same as in our university version, and the process remains the same whatever the version of instance of Moodle. First we give the full name of our course, say for example introduction to economics. That will be full name of the course, and then shorter name maybe economics or eco or whatever. And then we can decide the course category. Course category means UG course, PG course, professional course, certificate course, like that, the course category, anything. When this course will start, when this course will end, that. And here this description is for letting the learners or the visitors to the site to let them know that what this course deals about. Not a big paragraph, just 3-4 sentences, that this course will uh, enable you to understand the principles of economics that way. And related to that, upload any image here. This is important course format. There are 4 formats in which we can create our courses. First, I will tell you about topics format and weekly format. They both are same in appearance. Topic means, for example, I want to create a course on a flowering plant. Now, in a plant, there are various organs. We have root, we have stem, we have leaf, we have fruit, flower, like that. So if I choose topics format, I will give the name, the root, the stem, the leaf, the flower, those topics they come. And if it is a weekly format, in week 1, what I will cover, week 2, what I will cover. So the dates can be mentioned there, but they both, in a way, they are similar. These are list in that sense. Single activity format. I presume that you must have now you might have done certain MOOCs available by Coursera, Udacity, Udacity or edX. There are so many MOOC platforms available. Sometimes there are certain courses which are completely video based. You create a, like I want to create a course on blended learning, and there in that I created just 10 videos, and that course will be completed. In that case, if I have a single kind of activity, I will go for single for activity format. It means I will put all those videos, and when the user will log in, they will just see first the video 1, complete it, then comes the video 2, video 3, video 4, like that. So here is the single activity, like that. So I select that activity there, and on the base, it becomes a specialized format. Then the social format, in which, say like we want to involve our students in a discussion, have their opinion, have their likes, something like on social media, you express your opinions, you give rating to that, then we select this social format. So based on the nature of the courses, the subjects which are on offer in our university, we can select any format of that. And if we are selecting this, then these are the number of sections. We can increase, we can keep them hidden, we can keep them visible, invisible, or something like that. And these are the file uploads capabilities. We can allow depending on the server capacity. So that is not an issue in our university, but there is no need to give this 100 MB capability to our students, because it will be difficult even for them to upload this high. Around 2 MB, 5 MB space is adequate enough. There are, like Professor Jatin deals with the design courses in which the graphics can be heavy. So depending on the nature of the course, we can just decide that what kind of upload we allow for the students or the teachers in their courses. And we can just after finish, the rest are by default things. Normally we don't unless there is a specific requirement, we normally leave them as such. And then we save the course. So the course will be saved, and now the course is ready. Then comes, it is asking us to enroll the students. Now, for the benefit of our colleagues, our IT services brothers, they have done a good thing that when the admissions are complete, they create the cohort for your course. So we can add the students once they exist into the database. We cannot create a course from the teacher's point of view, because that comes. But if the student is already in the database, we can select them by enrolling them. And it is easy. We go to, say, like enroll users. We click on enroll users, and then it will this will be a little different. Then it will show us at present, since there is no I have not selected, but we can I can choose that whoever are the users in my course, and I can select a cohort also here. So the cohort means in one go 35 students are there in my course, and immediately there is no need for me to select them one by one. And then I can assign the roles. By default here, the student role is there because I'm enrolling others as student in my course, but I can give them a different role also. Say, like, for example, I'm offering some course, and I want Dr. Vinod to come with me as a teacher in my course. So I can add a person as a teacher in the course, and then two people, they can collaboratively teach the same course. So that way the enrollment is done, and this is easy in our university, because our after the admission is confirmed, then the cohorts, they are created, and we just need to select our course, and then we proceed to making the course content. So this is the screen. By default, it will show creating the course. Here, this gear icon, this is very important. This is the path. In Moodle, if we want to navigate, it is always
Professor
a good
Sharma,
idea.
I have some questions. You allow me at your convenience. Thank you.
This question is related to what I have told so far.
One of them is related to what you have been telling so far.
Okay, please go ahead.
Okay, Professor Sharma, since the Moodle is down right now and we are not able to access it for a long period of time, which is unfortunate, I would like to know, I mean, I am not, since you talked about the cloud Moodle thing, but with my AUD email ID and password, I'm not able to log into the main Moodle server. So, okay. So I'm not sure how, I mean, is there an alternative so that like we can access our courses already uploaded there?
Okay. I'm sorry, the answer to this specific question is no, unless if I have taken a backup of my course, which is available with me in my local disk, and then I can upload it to other instance. So which course are you teaching?
I am teaching a course called Social Theory 2.
Okay, so let me take that example. Students. This course, I presume that it is available on our AUD server, which we are not able to access right now. Hopefully soon the passes will be issued and the electricity will come. But I request everyone that once they go in, you see on the screen in this course menu, there is this backup button. Kindly take a backup. So if you don't have the backup, then I'm afraid you won't be able to access it unless the server goes up and starts running. Otherwise, if we have now, either I consider that if we have the backup, or if we don't have the backup, which I think that may not be, because we never imagined that this situation may arise. If we have our content with us, say the PDFs, if I know that there were some movies which I noted from the YouTube, or there are certain images, if I have my course material with me, then I have the two alternatives. This is Moodle Cloud. I can create a free instance on it, and this particular Moodle Cloud which I'm showing to you now, it's the same on that Moodle Cloud platform. It allows me to create, I can sign up and use their free platform, which unfortunately means allows me just a limited access to the courses. Here it is, get started, and ideal for a single class. Like that, the others are the paid versions we can create on this platform. The advantage of using this one is that it is always the latest version of the Moodle. There. The another one which is I don't prefer it, means personally I don't go with that, but it is an alternative because many people who go with that. This is Genomio. You can create your free version on the Moodle of this also. First, the plus point, it allows us to upload I think around 2 GB or 20 GB of data. Although data is not an issue at all. In my site, I never upload the data. I always keep it in my Google Drive or other drives and give the linking from there. But it allows up to 250 students to be enrolled in a course. That is the plus point. The negative point, sustainability. This is a free website. They have to sustain. So what they do, they depend on advertisements. So to use this website, they will be popping up the advertisements. So I don't use it on my laptop because it asks me that I have a ad blocker on my system, and it asks me to remove that ad blocker, and I don't want to remove that. But many people they use it. It is one of a popular free site. It also offers. You can see here that the site's 100 active thousand active users per month. At the most 100 courses you can offer, and up to 10 GB of disk space, and 10 GB is lot of space. You can. The only thing they say here that your site must comply with Google AdSense content policies, like that. So if the figures are too small, please contact with us, like that. So this is one of the way that till then, if you have your material with you, you can use any of these platforms, and you can create your material, so that by that time the services to the students, they will continue. Is it okay?
Yeah, just one simple thing that, since we have our own cohorts and email IDs already there in our server, I don't know whether the backup will also carry the email IDs or enroll students to the local drive.
In that case, I agree with that point, but there is an alternative that I can make the access to my course as the free access. In that case, then just give the URL to your own students. But the thing is that if we give the URL to anyone who has the access to the URL, they can see the course into it. But means it's a course. So to make them give them the access to that course, that is an alternative. You can make as the access to the course as open, and it is easy to do in the Moodle by going through the manual enrollments and setting up their how they can access the course by going to the website. So like there is the course administration, and in the course administration, by going to the permissions and the enrollments. I can make them that okay, you just reach the website and you don't need to I can allow them as the manual enrollment, so the students they can enter my course. So that is a way to do it.
Sorry to bother like this. The last one. Is it? Won't it be better that we also maintain a cloud server for our own purpose rather than hosting a local server at our own university, since the university electricity is fluctuating and creating problems?
Actually, cloud services are being used around many time, but it becomes a an issue that sometimes the cloud services they are expensive. So finance can be an issue into that, although the availability remains access because we have our local servers and the cloud services. The cloud services mostly are uninterrupted services because they have various servers. So if the server in US is down, immediately the services can be transferred to the servers in say Australia or Europe or somewhere. But that is an alternative. I agree with you on that. But maybe the the IT team can look into it.
Please carry on.
More any other question so far? Then I can
No,
begin with.
I have other questions, but that will come in due course, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So now let me demonstrate you that since my a scaffolding for the course is ready, I need to add my content into it. And here comes a good thing that one more thing is there, that since this is the Moodle Cloud, which is hosted on the servers of Moodle company, this particular instance which I'm displaying you right now doesn't allow me to add extra plugins. But on our university server, we have very good extra plugins installed on our courses, where we have extra flexibility to manage our course. So like nowadays through the attendance plugin, we can have the attendance monitored of the students. Then we have learning analytics in place through the log reports. We can see that which student is able to log in at what time from there. And those things, these are, we can see like users, course administration, and here are the logs available. And we can see that on this course, all participation, all activities, what the activities, all actions by done, who created something, viewed something, updated something, deleted something, etc. These things, they can always be seen from there. So that way we can, configure many things. So few things which I am displaying here means there are extra features in our own Moodle instance. So here, whenever we need to modify our course, the first thing is we need to have turn editing on. So at present, this is a plain page, only topic 1, topic 2, etc. visible. The rest is the white space area. But when you turn editing on, you will see all these edit buttons, the pencil icon, the Foursquare icon, like that. Those things are available. When we see it, it means now we are in our editing mode, and it allows us to edit many things here. So it becomes simple. Like at present, by default, it says topic 1. I can simply click on the pencil icon, and I can make it say root. I can say it stem, and like that. So renaming is possible. Then I can regroup my things. I can just drag and drop it at a particular place, and then they can be reorganized. This one. Here are our action menus which we need to add to our course. These are two categories. Some are resources and some are activities. First, I will tell you about resources. These are provided as a teacher by us for our students. Like if I have a book with me, and book means here the digital kind of book, which I want to share with my students. And book here is not as a PDF whole kind of book in which we just keep on navigating by horizontal scrolling or vertical scrolling like that. Book here means that the individual web pages which are in a particular order or a particular sequence as they are in a book. So here it will be the digital book in the sense that they're different pages. But I have a PDF, say from the Athabasca University Press, I downloaded that Introduction to Economics, that book, PDF book. Then that will go as the file because then it consider it as a file. And here I can upload. File means anything as a PDF, as a PPT, as an Excel sheet, as a movie, as a sound file, whatever that can be, can go here. And in the file menu, I can add many files. But if you add more than one file, say like I added one PDF, one PPT, one movie, one image of something, and when it is displayed, it will show only one. The reason is that this feature considers one file as the main file, rest files as the subsidiary files, and it will display only the main file. So if you want to offer your students various documents, it is a good idea that then you select this folder. Folder is a sort of holder in which it holds various objects. And then when the student will open that folder, they will see all. Similarly, some sort of an almirah in which we have placed the things there. And within one folder, we can have subfolders. Like in our almirah, we have different shelves. And on particular shelf, we can paste our materials. IMS package is something like SCORM package, some sort of multimedia package, which were created on some other platform like Articulate Storyline. Those of you who deal with animation, they may be knowing Articulate Storyline. That package, it can come and it can very well integrate into Moodle. So it is to import an external content package in our Moodle, and that's very good for making it as a self-running material there. So that can be very well. Label is simple label, like the root word is a label, stem word is a label, just to give a title to anything, but it is very powerful. It's simply not a title. Whatever we put into it as a label, it will display it. So if I just say add some image into it, so when the student goes to the page, it will display that image as such. If the page is as such a page, we read a page, so the content is directly available, and the URL, the URL means to direct the student to some other external source. So like if I'm teaching them sociological imagination, and there is a related link to some related to that topic, so I will, and that saves me from downloading it, putting it, adding in my course, avoiding the copyright issue. Pointing to any person to URL may not amount to that. Now, these are the activities which we can add to our course. And I would like to, after I discuss then come to the assessment part. For that, there are certain features into it which allow us to make the assessment automated. So, and I know that some of our colleagues in the university, they are using this facility, and they have already conducted some internal assessment for their students. And the software does that automatically through the quiz or through other. You fix the marks, and then the software will add those marks and assign them the grades, which can come to the, you can see these grades on the left, and that is very helpful. So assignment, as the assignment as assessment activity. Big Blue Button is open source. Like now we are talking on Google Meet. We had tried Zoom. Big Blue Button is an open source real-time interactive software solution, and it has, here it is by default. So if we have the plugin for that, we integrate it in our Moodle, then I can simply schedule a class. And this is very simple. Say like I have selected it, I will add it, and then it will generate a session. And then I can, those students who just come to the class, they will know, like for this today's session, Dinesh ji posted that joining link in the course. So similarly here, it will ask me to just give the name and activity setting, and I can select either all the users or certain selected users. I can schedule the class, and after that I will just give display, and the students can be as viewer or contributor or the co-host there. And then here the session has been finished, means created, and if I click on it, the web conferencing tool will activate and the students can join. So all the features which are in Google Meet, which are in Zoom, which are in WebEx, like that, we can record the session, we can display our whiteboard area, we can display our presentations, everything. So to teach the students in real time, here is the facility into it.
Professor Sharma, I have two questions here.
Okay.
Firstly, regarding the grades, sir, we have a standard format of grading. You know, we have a grade system which says A minus, A plus to, you know, D and F. So, and but then when we log into the Moodle, that grading facility, don't you think that that grading facility also should be also, you know, installed by the IT services, so that you don't have to do much about it and you can just automatically grade the assignments you have? Number one is that question. Number two is in many of the other university Moodle interfaces, I have seen that there is a facility of adding Turnitin Dropbox. So that what happens is that when the student is dropping the assignment in the Dropbox, that automatically gets into a plagiarism check and a report is attached to the submission. So how is it possible that we can do it in a Moodle? Can you just explain that?
Okay. Let me first show you this course. Perhaps this is, I may have some students in here. This is the course which Nikhil from School of Vocational Studies has created. And these are various features of the course, in which we have this quiz here, this assignment here, the video here, and that. So now the answer to your first question about the grades. Here is the grade book. We need to, okay, at present there is only a test student for its testing purpose. The real course is on our Moodle, but here is the grade. We can, here is the scales, okay, letters. These are, this is my own version, but otherwise, if it is something 100%, so A minus B plus B, B minus C something, it is the default setting, but I can edit it. And based on my grading scheme, the assessment scheme, I can change it very easily. I can simply tell the software that from here, the grade letter A should be, this is the, and what you are telling, in Moodle, there are two kinds of settings, course-wise and site-wise. Course-wise settings are just affecting only a particular course, like your course. So that course settings for your course may not affect the course settings of Professor Parveen. But if you make it a site-wide, then all that thing will become for all the courses available. So that is possible. And then it can be very easily fixed from here. The another good thing about it that if you conduct your online assessment, as you have seen, and we are also doing it at Ambedkar University, I know some of our colleagues, they have used it. These marks, they can be exported, downloaded as an Excel sheet and given to our examination branch. For all the students, for all these items which are there in the course, you just select and then download it and then give that Excel sheet, which can very well go into the ERP from there. So assessment is automated. We can
Professor Sharma, can it be directly exported to ERP itself? So that you don't have to feed it in the ERP. You can just on a click your grades are entered into ERP.
Technically, yes. Through the programming, the answer is yes. It can be done.
Professor Sharma, won't it be nice to have that kind of facility to reduce a lot of load on the teacher itself?
Why not? Dinesh ji may be smiling in the back end that we are, increasing his work, but technically it is possible. Okay. Now the answer to your other question. At present, the course, I think I am not, maybe I can not. This is our Moodle instance on which our the Kashmiri Gate campus photograph is there. That is the Moodle version 3.2. And since beginning, we are using that because when it was installed, that version was the latest version at that time. And the site is not coming up. But what we did after our my joining with the assistance of Dinesh ji and Deepak ji, we have installed the latest version of Moodle 3.8 on our servers. And at present, it has been configured. And that has the Turnitin plugin already installed into it. So we will just and then at present in this Moodle, the currently which we are using, we have created our own ID and using our own password. But in that new Moodle, the facility is there that once you are logged into your network, so it will take that login and we can simply go into it. So that will become SSL, single sign up login. We don't need to remember so many passwords for so many things. So there, the anti-plagiarism Turnitin is already there, and very recently the university has acquired Urkund also as the plagiarism checking software, and we will have that also its API integrated into it. So through those API, application programming interface, these things they are integrated into it. The teachers, what they need to do that when they upload that assignment, they need to check that whether it is a normal assignment or a Turnitin assignment. If you accept it as a Turnitin assignment, then the Turnitin software will kick in, and then it will check that, provide you the similarity report, and then you can advise the student. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. I have learned a lot from you, sir.
Any other question by you or by others? So let me go back, and since this course is open, let me show you this. There are various kind of activities possible. So this is a page. When I say it a page, you click on it and you will see this is the information. So you read it directly. Now, as I told you, Moodle is so flexible that you can use a cloud-based version as I'm displaying it to you now. We can have its server based installation as in our university. We can have it as a standalone. We can install it on our own laptop also, and we can install it on even on a USB pen drive, and from there also it can work. So it has so many possibilities with us allowed. And then we have the mobile app of Moodle, which is the Moodle company. It is the official app. The good point of using the app is that, except the multimedia component, once a student browses through the content, then that access to that content remains in offline mode also. So if once the student has gone through the material, and if it is something like this page kind of information, then even if the student doesn't have the access to net, they can still read that information. So that's the means a plus point of using the site through the mobile app for the students, for the accessors. And then we have these discussion forums, like this retail forum. We can create a forum, and here the dialogues can go on between the teacher and the student and the student. And then we can use this forum as an assessment activity also. We can ask the students that, okay, this is the topic, you discuss it, and then we can make it as a peer review kind of thing. So suppose I made a posting, and Dr. Jaina is to reply to that. Then Dr. Jaina will see my reply and then can rate it, whether it is A grade, B grade, C grade, and like that. So that constitutes as the peer review. And in certain circumstances, we do use the peer review also for as a sort of a formative assessment to make them. Those are the learning. This is the PDF. It is the file, but this is the book, which is, let me show it to you. Means the book, we should not confuse it. The book here is, the book is in this way, that here there are 3 chapters into it currently. The chapter 1 is 3 things about the retail printed. Then second, creating a mind map. The third chapter is this. So the student will read then the first chapter, then we'll click on here, go to the next chapter. And in a chapter, we can have text, we can have video, like that. And this video is the live video. It runs. So when they see it, they can display it. So anything goes into a book. So it becomes a real multimedia kind of book. So this is the book. And then so we can have the quiz. The advantage of quiz is that it can be automatically graded by the system. So we tell the machine that this is the quiz. There are 10 questions, 1 question, 1 mark. So 10 questions, 10 marks. Out of that, whoever are all correct, 10 marks, 8 correct, 8 marks, and like that. And then we can give the feedback. So if the answer is yes, what kind of feedback? Say like, oh, well done. If the answer is wrong, sorry, wrong answer, try again, something like that we can give. And there is another one. This is the assignment. Normally the assignment is that in which the student uploads their assignment, which can go through Turnitin, as we discussed, and then the teacher sees the assignment either online on the screen or downloads it in their computer, and then assesses it and gives the grade. So the grading is also easy. We just see the assignments of the students, and then we grade them. It opens the box for us. Here are the student in the central portion. Their work may appear, and this is the PDF generator where we can annotate. And here is the box. Out of 100 marks, whatever marks I will give, they will store. And in this, I can type my comments like well done, and then I will, if I save changes, these marks, they will go to the grade book automatically. The changes were saved. So this way 89, 89 it has come, it has been graded as a teacher, then I can go to the next student. And that way this is automatic. And I can even upload my own in MS Word through the review function. We can add comments, we can annotate the things, we can put our comments, we can upload the teachers commented document into the system, so that students can then go back and read the comments or the feedback given by the teacher on their work. So that way we can see all the participants how they are going into that way. Then I think Dr. Nandini used this feature in her course. This is a wiki activity, which is a collaborative activity. If we want our students to work collaboratively on a project, we can ask them to work collaboratively on this work. So that way there are various kind of tools which are available to us. There is a difference of one forum is discussion forum is more of asynchronous in nature. So I put a topic into the class course forum. The students will log in and then they can access that. But sometimes the students, the class, they may say that, sir, as a whole of the class, you want to talk to them. Then we can have this textual based in real time chat class. So the chat is in real terms. It is something like WhatsApp chat. So you create a chat room, say like you just give any name to that, and chat sessions, settings, etc. Whatever we want to do, you can fix the timings at what time we want to have it. And we can see, so here click now, enter to chat, then the small this chat window will open. I am not sure if you will see, because I may have to change my screen, but another window will pop up, and then it will, I post something, the students will post something, and then in real time the chat will happen. So that is asynchronous, when the teacher and the students, they all are logged into the system online. So that way. So these are the features of Moodle, that how we can add them. It has a lot of variety. I just want to show you about the kind of the quizzes, because the assessment is very important for us. And since now we are at such a stage that the course is getting completed, means in the previous meeting it was discussed that in many cases up to 70-80% of the course is complete. So then how we can have certain we can add a new quiz, we can grade it, we can fix the timings, what is the number, etc., and then just fix the things. So then we edit the quiz and add a question. Now see, it allows us to create all these kind of questions which can be checked by system, which can be marked by the teacher, all. So these are like mathematical, the calculated type, multiple choice of calculated type, or simple drag and drop into the text, drag and drop markers. Say like if I have a world map, and on world map I want my students to identify where is India, where is Pakistan, like that, onto the image. And then essay type, mostly to be evaluated by the teacher. Matching type, the multiple choice, numerical, random answer, short answer, true, false, etc. Whatever the nature, I can select and add them. And then accordingly, I can fix the number, I can give the alternatives, so that so this is a quite flexible, and many varieties of choices are available to us, that we can have the assessment strategies put into the place. So these are the features. We can have suggested readings for our students, in which we can give them some extra material to study. Okay, so any questions? This is a brief. I know that for many of you who have already your courses on Moodle, it may be a repetition. So if there is any specific thing you want to know, want to create something for your course, please
Dr.
feel free to ask question.
Dr. Sharma, can I just interrupt? Yeah. Thank you,
Yeah,
Dr.
please,
Sharma,
please.
for the wonderful session. It's
Thank
indeed a
you.
great learning. Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, since we are talking about the assessments, and I
Mhm.
have a course on Moodle, and since now Vidhan has also mentioned, and we all know that our Moodle is not working. So in that case, and there is no backup for our course, especially I don't have a backup for my course. So what should we do when students are already working on the assignments and they wanted to submit those assignments? Well,
Okay, in
like other
uh,
possibility, they're emailing me, but otherwise, so it cannot be submitted on Moodle anymore now.
yeah, it cannot be submitted to the Moodle, but what we can do, like we can create a Google quiz and administer the Google quiz, and the results of the Google quiz, they also go into the spreadsheet, and then that you can keep it. And in the Google Sheet also, like in Moodle, it's a good thing that you reminded me this thing. In the Moodle, the quiz, there is a facility, and you did it, that you can announce to the student that, okay, today I'm going to have an examination. Uh, it will start at 10 o'clock and it will close at 11, 12 o'clock. And you can make it automatic by the system. You can define the time. At that time, only the quiz will open, and at that particular specific time, the quiz will get closed. So the students won't get extra time automatically. Similarly, in Google Quiz also, we can stop it by accepting more responses from there. So for that time, if we need to create some assessment activity, maybe as a part of a quiz, we can create the quiz, in which we can include multiple choice, short answer type as true false, essay type, which as a teacher we need to grade them, we need to assess them. So that is an alternative.
Okay, thank you, Sharma sir.
Most welcome. So any other question by anyone? Oh, I actually, my screen was sharing, so I could not see the chat messages. But if there are any questions, kindly, Rachana ji is asking, is there a way that students get notification on Gmail when Moodle is updated as Google Classroom automatically? Yes, in our Moodle system, we have this facility, the notification. I remember that initially in 3.2, there was some issues because the system was being upgraded at that time, but it is working. And when you put any notification into it, and not only notification, the course notification, which comes in the beginning, even in the discussion forum, whenever anything through the subscription, as a teacher, we can make it as a forced subscription. Forced subscription means that whatever the students will respond there, the email will go to all the students in that course. And it is optional. If I don't want, it won't come to me, and like that. Okay, let me see. So Rachana ji, I hope I answered your question. Okay, Kartika is asking it, Kritika, sorry. It is possible to allow students to submit directly to Turnitin. They can, but then they will be, in that case, then they need to have their ID on Turnitin of our system. And then the two issues which I can immediately think will be that the number of users license with us, and the secondly, if they are uploading it directly to the Turnitin, not through Moodle assessment, then it is in their account, and then they have to share the access to the teacher. So that is the difference. Anandani ji is asking, Wiki was a great feature. Oh, thank you, Anandani. I remember that you found it very useful for your subject. So good. Okay, Dr. Amol says, okay, he leaving. Okay, I think the messages are going there, but maybe I learned. Okay. So I think let me. Any questions? Open session.
Yeah.
If no, then I will
Hi,
request Madam
Dr. Sharma.
to.
Dr. Sharma.
Okay. Dr. Jaina is here.
Yeah. Can you just tell them? See, we have many possibilities like Moodle, like Google Classroom, Zoom Classroom. And can you tell that what is most advantageous for all of us and why we should use Moodle, not other platform? How it will help the university to create a repository or whatever it may be, and that will be much more useful. Can you just focus on those part if it is possible?
Okay, actually, if we see the capabilities of these two platforms, if we want to compare, Moodle has many more capabilities as compared to Google Classroom. Google Classroom is very easy, I agree with that. And in fact, in one of the Facebook forums, I may have that image somewhere with me. Somebody was asking that question, and the community was replying that the Google Classroom is like a walking cane, that chadi, we use it to walk, while Moodle is like a Toyota. So means you can see the comparison now. So there are many kind of interactions activities which are inbuilt and can be integrated into the Moodle system, and that remains as a overall all things in one package. On Google Classroom, since it is a Google product and they are available at a place, but a kind of a synthesis among all these applications, it becomes difficult, and particularly for the third party plugins, including adding into it. A simple example is like H5P, which is an open source and highly interactive. I guess we don't have Urkund license in our university. No, very recently, Nikhil, the university has taken the Urkund license. So, and very soon it will be included in that. So that way, the things there are much more flexible, interactive, and integrating it through our ERP through the programming way. Uh, it's a good solution. So maybe, and using a single platform also makes it, because we can have the courses which are there. They are available with individual teachers, so you need to contact them differently. And if it is on one platform, or if it is available for say some like NAC purposes or something, everything is available at one place, then access is easy. That way, that also goes from there. So there are various, these questions were asked. Can you please clarify? Okay, can you tell me which question? Dr. Rachana saying these questions were asked before. Can you please clarify? About uploading books downloaded from. Okay. The books which are downloaded from various resources, there may be an issue of, say, like our university has subscribed to various databases which allows us to use those books, but we need to see the kind of license, that whether that license allows us to download it, upload it on our case. But in case of a Creative Commons, that permission is inbuilt into it. So if from the libgen or something, if it is specified there that we are free to copy it, download it, redistribute it, then it can be done. Otherwise, it may prohibit us. Of course, we can always give a link, and on our university, because all the students, they have access to the our electronic resources also, so that can go with them.
Sharmaji, what about Sci-Hub and research materials which we download from there?
The principal factor remains the same for any site, for anything. If their license agreement with us allows us, authorizes us that these can be downloaded, of course we are allowed for that, but further distribution is there. So that is the point. Okay. So I think okay, and I know that some of my friends they have been regularly in contact with me regarding creation of their course, having some. Thank you, Asmita ji, having some related to assessment, to their access, something. I'm sorry that due to the non-access to the server now, but it is beyond the control of anyone. We can't move on the roads, go so freely, but I hope that Delhi administration or the police or someone who is allowing this kind of movement, they will see our problem and allow us to take care but once. But in the meantime, these are some of the options that if you want to use this cloud version of the Moodle, you can have your quiz or some provision there. Okay, so thank you very much. And Madam, over to you, please now.
Thank you so much, Sharmaji. It was indeed very enlightening session. In fact, I learned so much. One little doubt I have always had regarding the hosting of the server. If we increase or we augment the server, do we increase the quality of hosting the platforms?
Hosting the platforms means
like if we need to access the Moodle platform, or our teachers are hosting their material, will that increase by augmenting the servers? Do we increase the capacity to an extent where this becomes more efficient?
Actually it depends on, like, if we install the Moodle version now, so it tells us that what are the prerequisites to install that. So in terms of which version of PHP we are using it, the two main settings are there. One is MySQL, that is the database, because anything which we use goes into the Moodle database, like the marks, the students' assignments, the student data, everything. So which version of MySQL or Debian or MariaDB, there are so many databases available. So that version compatibility should be there. If the Moodle version is of higher nature and our server configuration is of lower nature, then there will be conflict. So they need to match. It is always upgraded is always okay. So that is there. So that's what we have done. The current courses are running on 3.2, but we will port them. We were just waiting that this session is over, because we didn't want to disturb the courses of the teacher in the session in between. But then our 3.8 is ready, and so it is working. So the upgradation of the Moodle means of our own servers in terms of its memory, its storage, or the kind of sequence is always a good idea. Means we need to be having the upper side, not on the lower side of any software, not only Moodle, any of other kind of softwares if we install, including Turnitin or Urkund or say Storyline or Blackboard, Collaborate, or anything which we download. The server should have that capacity that it is of a little version higher than that which is needed for that.
I think we can have a detailed discussion on this once the university opens to augment it further.
Ji.
We can do that. Dr. Nitin is here. Dr. Malik? Dr. Nitin Malik? He had requested me that he would like to...
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, ma'am. I am here, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Nitin. So we wind up the session?
Yes. So on behalf of the Honorable Vice Chancellor, our esteemed faculty colleagues, and from administration. Indeed, a very insight presentation by Professor Sharma on Moodle and online technology. I was just feeling as I'm back to my MSc days when my teachers, my favorite teachers, used to give a lecture, and I was totally involved, engrossed into it. Means really a great presentation today we had, sir, and all thanks to you. And there was a lot of queries, and in spite that server is down, let me tell you, our director IT and his team, they are working very hard with sincere
know.
effort to get it restored. But
Yes.
because of this lockdown movement, it was not easy. But
Yeah.
most probably today by evening, I think, I do hope by today evening the things will be restored, because IT team is already there, and we have requested the Delhi police for allowing the movement of the engineer. So things will be
Yes.
there. And this session reminds me of one thing. I was just going through, I was just putting a message across to Director IT after hearing so much, after learning so much from Professor Sharma. I think every one of us, because the participation in this presentation was too, like Vidhan asked, all the people were asking queries and they have been doing it. So, and as Vice Chancellor ma'am always says and is continuously telling us, now the future is only on the online teaching and online assessment. I think we have a great asset as Professor Sharma with AUD, that we can very easily incorporate and carry out the online teaching and online assessment with his wide experience. So thanks once again, Professor Sharma, for a
Thank you.
very beautiful and very knowledgeable learning today we have. Thank you very much.
Okay. My regards.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sharma ji, once again.
Jai Namaste.
Bye-bye. Bye.